Well, we hear enough about World War II stories, and Parker said he wanted me to say something, so I said I would tell you a little bit about my prison ministry. In January, it'll be 33 years I've been going into prisons, leading Bible studies. Last month, it was 25 years I've been going to the maximum security prison at Oak Park Heights. Oak Park Heights is quite an unusual prison. It's considered the most modern escape-proof prison in the world, even though it was built in 1982 when Al Quie was the governor of Minnesota. Kind of unusual that it would be built under Quie's administration, but because he has always been active in ministering to prisoners, including the time when Chuck Colson was in prison and one of his boys got into trouble, and Quie looked up the law and found out that he could take his place in prison and offered to do that when Quie was a congressman. And so my acquaintance with Al Quie and Chuck Colson and many of the people that were active in prison fellowship has really been good for me. In these 33 years that I've been doing this, I've learned a lot more than the inmates have learned from me. I'm always amazed at the reception we get. The warden, the commissioner of corrections, the guards, the inmates are all very nice to us. The guards only have one thing that isn't very nice, and of course they're teasing. They're glad that they don't have a guy like me in prison because they couldn't handle a tough guy like me, they said.
See what you get for giving him the mic.
Oak Park Heights has a population of about 400, and that is in the main prison. There's an addition to the prison where there are some men that are incorrigible, that only get out of their cells 1 hour a day because of the fact that they are so incorrigible. They are very difficult to deal with. The guards bring their meals to them and pass it through the opening in the door of their cells. And when they pass the meals in and the meals out, they pass them in to a ledge. They won't let the prisoner be close to them as they pass it in because these guys are so tough. They have an hour a day that they do some exercise and can take a shower. We don't come in contact with any of them, but we come in contact with many of the men that are prisoners that have no chance of parole. Probably about 20 to 30% of the 70% of the men who are murderers, 70% of the men are murderers at Oak Park Heights, and 20 to 30% of them have a no release lifetime sentence. They will never get parole. They've done some horrendous things. I never ask them what they've done. If I wanted to find out, I could go to the Commissioner of Corrections. That's public information. But I don't care to know this. Some guys tell me what they've done. One of the most amazing things is that men in prison don't have contact with males that are over 50. In their society, men either die of drug or alcohol overdose or somebody shoots them by the time they're 50. So when I talk to them about having children that are 65, 63, and 56, they want to know how old I am, and I tell them. And some of the young men want to know if they can pull my hair to see if that's a rug or if it's real hair. And I always let them do that. That gives them a lot of satisfaction. And incidentally, the only place you can hug a prisoner in Oak Park Heights is in the chapel. If you go to visit somebody, they won't let you hug them because a lot of people pass off a lot of things. I had no idea all the things that people do to pass off extraneous things that prisoners shouldn't have until they showed us some training films. Once a year, we have a training session, and usually the warden is there. And up till a recent time, the wardens at Oak Park Heights, if you can believe it, were ladies, about 5'4" and maybe weighed 120 pounds. Two of them, one after the other. Now there's a man in charge. The two ladies have retired. But it's amazing. The warden in a prison like that knows the history of every man. They have a record of them in the room where they meet for conferences, in the conference room. They have a record of them and what gang they were in, because they have to be very careful that they don't let guys from opposite gangs come in if they still don't like each other, because they get into a fight. I have never witnessed a fight in prison. They've always been very kind, and we know what to do if they do have a fight, or if they have they call a rumble. We head for the chaplain's office. That's what they tell us to do. You also have to get down, because when the riot squad comes in, anything above the belt, they're going to knock you down. So you get down on the floor. But I have never had that experience. It's interesting what prisoners, how they feel about us that go in there. One of the things that they tell you when you're leaving, we now go in at noon on Tuesday and come out about 2:30 or 3 o'clock. The first thing the last thing they tell you, please don't get involved in road rage. Now I have to explain to them that an 88-year-old guy isn't very interested in getting involved in road rage. But it's been an interesting experience for me. It's made me colorblind to people who have a skin of a different color than mine. And that's been a wonderful thing in my life, to get to know people that way. And I've made friends with a lot of people with dark skin. And that's been a wonderful thing in my life. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Mary.
Does anybody say, I'm innocent? Get me out of here.
Does anybody say I'm innocent? I would say about half of them feel that way. I never like to put people in a box in distinction, but it's an amazing thing. Black men are far more able to say they were wrong than white men are. That always amazes me. A lot of black men in prison say, you know what, this is where I should be. I did awful things. And some of them do awful things. Two of the fellas, the second Tuesday of every month, they have a renewal service that the prisoners do themselves. Now, we have to be there. They can't come to the chapel unless there are religious volunteers. So they do their own service, and it's amazing. The two guys that do it, one of them raped a 70-year-old woman and then he killed her. And the other one, who is much younger, that fella that did that is about 30 years younger than me. He's 58. The other young fella is about 35 or 36. He told me when he was high on drugs and alcohol that he used to shoot people just for the fun of it. Now, both of these men have reformed their lives. They don't watch TV. They spend a lot of time in prayer. They spend a lot of time studying the Bible. And that's how they spend their lives. They are honor prisoners. They get to do some things that other prisoners don't do, like clean up the halls. Normally, a prisoner there can never be in the hall without a guard being with them. And we can't, when we go in, first of all, I can't go through the magnetic detector they have because of my pacemaker. So they wand me. But they do that every time you come in. And as you go in, you go through 7 doors and elevators to get to the chapel. So, and there's a guard with you all the time, either a guard or the chaplain. You can't be in the halls as an outsider without somebody on the prison staff being with you. And they take a lot of care to make sure that we're protected. And I personally think I'm safer in there than out on the street.
You ever eat a meal with them?
Yes, yes. Years ago, we used to eat. When we did a weekend seminar, we used to eat with them. We don't anymore. When we do a weekend seminar, we go out on the weekend seminars were Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. And on Saturday and Sunday, you go out outside the prison to eat, and then when you come back in, you've got to be re-examined. Make sure you don't bring any extraneous things in. For instance, you aren't supposed to take a pen like this in, because these guys can make shanks, they can make things to kill somebody else out of almost anything. Their favorite one is when they have typewriters, they don't have many typewriters anymore, they take a part out of the typewriter and make a real sharp knife with a point on it. They also take a regular toothbrush with a plastic, and they'll edge off the end of that to a point.
Is there any family structure with those people at all?
Well, that's the problem. There is almost no male influence in their lives. When I tell them what kind of a home life I had, because I had a great mother and dad, they loved me and hugged me and told me they loved me every day of my life. Their retort to that is, no wonder you're not in here. Because they don't have much, they have good mothers and they have good grandmothers. But they have, most of the men, particularly black men, don't have any male influence in their lives. Mary?
Yeah, the ones that are in there for life, with no chance of parole, are they pretty much resigned to that? Are they pretty good inmates? Are they just, resigned to the fact that they will live the rest of their lives?
Some are both kinds. Some are rakists and cause a lot of trouble. None of them come to the Bible study. The ones that come to the Bible study are resigned, and that's where they're going to be the rest of their lives. And that's okay with them. Most of them say, particularly the black men, this is where we ought to be because we did terrible things. And they are particularly open to us coming in because about 50 to 60% of them have no visitors. And so they love people from the outside. As I mentioned, the chapel is the only place where you can hug an inmate. If you went to visit somebody, you can't hug them because they pass off so many extraneous material. But we've been going there so long that they know we wouldn't do anything like that. So we're able to hug them in the chapel. I'll get yours next. Yes, sir.
Are you the only one that go in to help you with your...
No, there are 6 or 7 groups every week that go in. Yes. Well, they want us to hug them. That's yeah, they like that very much. Yeah, they're very open to that.
See you next week. Okay. If you went out and stabbed somebody, and black men went out and stabbed somebody, that black man is still more kind than you would. In our society, it's still built up to that factor that they end up doing a lot more time than Mexican, Spanish,
That's a I guess I can call it a misnomer fact. That doesn't happen anymore. I have a very close friend that's an assistant county attorney in Hennepin County. And when she tries a case, it doesn't matter to her what color the person is. And I think most judges are open to that today. At one time, that was very prevalent. But I think that's pretty well cleared up. And I don't think they make much distinction of what color you are or what the pedigree you are. Well, one of the things you find that a lot of men that will get out are terribly sorry that they have so many tattoos. There's a Mexican that just was transferred about 6 months ago from Oak Pike Heights to Lino Lakes, where he's in a program called
Return of
IFI, the Prison Fellowship runs. In the last 18 months they're in prison. They train them to get out. They teach them how to work. They line them up with somebody to be a sponsor for them. For the last 6 months they're in prison, and for a year or two after they get out. That's the most important part of any ministry, is to be able to be with these guys, to be a mentor when they get out. Well, this fella's got tattoos. His whole body is covered. From his ankles to his neck, his arms, his legs. No, not much on his face. The only thing he has on his upper body is a pair of lips on the back of his neck. But he asked me what he was going to do when he went to apply for a job. And I said, well, you got to wear a shirt with a necktie, or you got to wear a turtleneck shirt. And you got to wear long sleeves. Because that there is, when somebody's interviewing you, they have a right to draw their own opinion of somebody like that. Now, this fellow's made a big change in his life. He's a great guy. And if he gets out while I'm still alive, I'm going to mentor him for a couple of years. I'll stay with him, help him find a job, help him find a place to live. Teach him how to live in today's society. Because just think, if you were incarcerated even for 2 or 3 years today, how much society changes. Just the geography, the highway system, the street system, the way stores operate, the way automobiles are driven, everything. I remember about 15 years ago, a fella got out that I mentored, and he'd been out maybe a couple of weeks, and he had a job, and he got a car. And he called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he said, I got a flat tire. What should I do? And I said, stay right where you are. I'll be there within 45 minutes. And I went there in 45 minutes, and I called a tow truck and had him change the tire, because this guy wasn't very mechanical, and by that time, neither was I. And I didn't want to take a chance of changing that tire, so I called a tow truck and had the guy change the tire. One of the things we're instructed to do is never give a fellow that's been in prison any money when he gets out. So I get around that a little bit. If they need some groceries, I go to the grocery store with them and buy some groceries for them. Or if they need some gasoline in their car, I'll put some in. I had one fella, he happened to be Jewish, at the prison in Sandstone. And when he got out, he called me one time and he said, I got an interview, but I don't have any money to put gasoline in my car. And I said, well, I'll come over near where you are, and I'll fill your car up with gasoline. And he said, when I get a job, I'm going to pay you back. And I said, I don't want you to. That's my contribution to Prison Fellowship. Well, about 6 weeks later, he had gotten a job, and he called me up, and he said, I want to meet you. I'm going to pay you back. And I couldn't talk him out of it. He paid me back. But I will never give them any money, but I will buy groceries for them or fill their cars with gasoline. Yeah.
Bob, do you have any idea what percentage of those fellows that go through your program actually make it as compared to those that go back in again?
The IFI program, Interfaith Initiative at Lino Lakes, where they train people for 18 months before they get out, the recidivism rate is down to about 5 or 10%. Where they've had the longest, when George W. Bush was governor of Texas, he asked Prison Fellowship to come in, and that's about probably 20 years ago. The recidivism rate in that prison in Texas, the recidivism rate is about 10 or 15%. It was somewhere between 55 and 80% before. In Minnesota, we have a lot better recidivism rate, and the reason we do is we treat inmates like human beings. You don't see the guards walking around hitting anybody. Now they get tough with them if they bother them. But the guards joke with them if they're pliable and nice to the guards joke with them. They treat them like human beings. And that has a lot to do when a man gets out of prison. And I talk about men because I don't do anything in women's prison. There's only one women's prison in Minnesota, it's shocking. And I've never gone there. But the worse you treat a man in prison, the worse he's going to act when he gets out. So if you treat him like a human being in prison, you got a better chance that he will act like a human being when he gets out. Any other questions?
Not only is he a great MC, he's just a great guy.
I have one comment. You made reference to his hair there. We've been out talking with kids in high school, and I think when he and I are talking to kids in high school, he'll never make reference to his hair every once in a while, and I just told him, why he has to bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you very much for listening, because this ministry is very dear to me, and I love doing it. It's been a great part of my life, and thank you for listening.
One more time.
Oh,
Well, one of my favorite Clemens stories is he was out at the airport one day, getting patted down. He looked at the person that was doing it, and he said, the last time they did this to me, I went into prison. Well, I think he's been a great program.
Say a word about next week.
Next week, we might have Lou Martin. He's a little reluctant, but we see. Thanks.
It's hard to get. You gotta work in that guy.